In this lecture, we will study about pituitary gland. It is a very important endocrine gland in our body, also known as hypophysis. It is a small gland about 1 centimeter in diameter and up to 1 gram in weight. It is present in a bony cavity at the base of the brain known as sella turcica and is connected to the hypothalamus by a stalk called hypophyseal or pituitary stalk. Pituitary gland has got two distinct portions. Anterior pituitary known as adenohypophysis and posterior pituitary known as neurohypophysis. Between these two portions, there is a relatively avascular zone called pars intermedia, which is almost absent in human beings but is much larger and much more functional in some lower animals. The two portions of the pituitary originate from different sources. The anterior pituitary originate from Rathke's pouch, which is an embryonic invagination of the pharyngeal epithelium. The origin of anterior pituitary from the pharyngeal epithelium thus explains the epithelial nature of its cells. But the posterior pituitary originates from neural tissue outgrowth from the hypothalamus. Therefore, it has got large numbers of glial type of cells. Now let's see the hormones produced by pituitary gland. First, the anterior pituitary. 6 important peptide hormones and many less important ones are produced by anterior pituitary, which mainly control the metabolism in the body. It has different cell types that synthesize and secrete these hormones, usually one cell type for each major hormone. Posterior pituitary secretes 2 important peptide hormones which are produced in large neurons located in hypothalamus. These neurons are located in supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei of hypothalamus. Now let's see the 6 important peptide hormones produced by anterior pituitary gland one by one. First, the growth hormone. It is the most important hormone of all the hormones produced by the pituitary gland. It is produced by somatotropes. About 30 to 40% of anterior pituitary cells are somatotropes that secrete growth hormone. As the name suggests, it is responsible for the growth of our entire body. It affects cell division, cell differentiation. It stimulates lipolysis, inhibits actions of insulin on carbohydrate and lipid metabolism, and so on. Next is the adrenocorticotropic hormone. This hormone is produced by corticotropes. It targets the adrenal cortex and controls the secretion of some of the adrenocortical hormones. Like it stimulates the production of glucocorticoids and androgens by the adrenal cortex. Then the next hormone is thyroid stimulating hormone or TSH, also known as thyrotropin. It is a very important hormone produced by thyrotropes. This hormone controls the secretion of thyroxine and triiodothyronin by the thyroid gland. Thyroxine and triiodothyronin produced by thyroid gland are very important hormones which control the rate of most of the intracellular chemical reactions in our body. Next, the gonadotropic hormones produced by gonadotropes. These are of two types: follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. These hormones are responsible for the growth of ovaries and testes and control their hormonal and reproductive activities. FSH, for example, stimulates development of ovarian follicles, spermatogenesis in testes. Luteinizing hormone is responsible for ovulation, formation of corpus luteum in the ovary. It also stimulates production of estrogen and progesterone by the ovary and stimulates the production of testosterone by the testes. The last hormone is prolactin, which is responsible for mammary gland development and milk production and secretion. In this diagram, we can see the various hormones produced by anterior pituitary and its target organs. Now, the hormones produced by posterior pituitary are mainly two in number. First, the ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone, also known as vasopressin. ADH controls how much water is to be excreted in the urine, and therefore it helps in controlling the concentration of water in the body fluids. Oxytocin is responsible for milk ejection from the mammary glands and is also responsible or helps in parturition, that is delivery of baby at the end of gestation. Hypothalamic control of pituitary gland. Almost all the secretions of pituitary gland is controlled by hypothalamus. Secretions from posterior pituitary is controlled by nerve signals that originate in hypothalamus and terminate in posterior pituitary. But the secretions from anterior pituitary is controlled by hormones called hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones, which are synthesized and secreted within the hypothalamus and conducted to the anterior pituitary through minute blood vessels called hypothalamic hypophyseal portal vessels. Hypothalamus itself receives signals from the various sources of nervous system like pain stimuli, olfactory stimuli, etc. So it is a collecting center for information, for all the information that is meant for internal well-being of the body. In this table, we can see the various hypothalamic releasing and inhibitory hormones that control anterior pituitary secretions For most of the anterior pituitary hormones, hypothalamic releasing hormones are important. But for prolactin, hypothalamic inhibitory hormone is more important.